the madness or brilliance.
Try to make sense out of all the madness.
It is now time for Midday Madness.
But it's madness.
WDBK's midday show where the madness is just beginning. And welcome to 91.5 WDBK for Midday Madness. This is Vincent Fish, of course, behind the mic here for your 1 o'clock hour. We have quite a lot to talk about, quite a lot to speak of course, in this Midday Madness show. And those of you who know my Midday Madness show, I usually do sports and sports only. Well, we have a little more than sports to talk about. Yeah, we'll get into that. Okay, I promise we'll get into sports. But those of you who didn't know, there was a pretty big broadcast here for the station of 91.5 last week. As, yes, it feels like it was just yesterday, but it's almost going to be a week now. When Wednesday comes around, it'll be a week ago this Wednesday that 91.5 covered the final debate for governor. Of course, it was held in New Brunswick at the Rutgers Performing Arts Center. Of course, we had one heck of a broadcast on that and was just something extremely special for this station. All that was involved did a great job, and something where, of course, myself and our radio station coordinator, Nick Earnshaw, we actually went out to Rutgers, New Brunswick to cover the event, got some good audio. Of course, tune in next week for the Midday Madness show as we'll display some of the audio that we picked up from being there. Of course, we were there for the entirety of the debate. We got there early beforehand. We did our show live on 91.5 from 4:30 to 6 p.m., so it was just, honestly, an incredible experience, and I'd like to thank everyone here, of course, again, our radio station coordinator, Nick Earnshaw, for making it all happen, which gives us an opportunity to improve our careers in a big-time way. It's exactly what happened, and, I mean, we had a great bunch of people, of course, back here in the studio who did a incredible job behind the board. We had our panel with us. Our social media department did a great job as well. So if you want to check out that stream, it is still available on our YouTube channel, 91.5 WDBK, better known as 915 WDBK on YouTube. That is still on there. You can check out that stream where we covered the debate, of course, going over both candidates of Mikey Sherrill and Jack Chitterelli, and really getting into the nitty-gritty of their two campaigns. We really got into it. It was definitely something very, very special and something that I'm sure you'll enjoy watching. Again, that is on our YouTube channel. The stream is there, so if you did not see it yet, well, what are you doing? Make sure to go on our YouTube channel immediately and check out that wonderful stream. And as we did have some audio technical difficulties around midway through, but there are still some definite good portions that you won't want to miss. Check it out. As speaking of YouTube, we are live on YouTube right now. This show, yes, it's over the radio, obviously, but it's also on our YouTube channel. So if you want to see my wonderful face, or that's what I like to call it, some people may get scared of it, but if you want to see my face, of course, you can tune into this show, not just on the radio, but the show, like I said, is also being broadcast over our YouTube channel, which is growing at a very, very fast rate. So definitely something very, very interesting right there. But, of course, we have a text line, WDBK text line, before I really get into the show, 856-345-9325. If you want to text in and be a part of the conversation, once again, 856-345-9325 is our text line number. And yes, so we got quite into it, of course, this past Wednesday, last week, on the debate, of course, going over what both campaigns stand for, of course, going over Republican candidate Jack Chitterelli and, of course, Democratic candidate for governor Mikey Sherrill, what the two are trying to accomplish. Because, of course, the debates that we saw, it got chippy at times, of course, and there was that kind of got you portion of the debate as well. We were really getting into it. Of course, the spin room that we were in at times, the media, everyone in there started to laugh at some of the things as the debate kind of got a little funny at specific times. Of course, when Chitterelli was going after, of course, Mikey Sherrill saying, at least I walked at graduation, and then Mikey Sherrill would come back with a response. It was back and forth. Your typical debate kind of, I mean, what you would honestly expect for a debate, of course, Mikey Sherrill, she'd come back, say he's lying, things like that. It was that back and forth type of that mentality that you expect from a debate, and was definitely fun to watch. and was something where that's the final debate between those two. It was the second and final one. The next debate, well, there isn't one. The next time that we really talk about these two will be decision day come the beginning of November, which will be here before you know it. So, yeah, kind of crazy to believe. It feels like the presidential election just happened, and we were reporting on that. Now, here we are already for the governor's election. And, man, oh, man, before you know it, the next presidential election will be here. And then the next governor's election will be here. And then the next president just keeps going in a constant circle. I swear, time, I don't even know where it is anymore. I don't even know where the month of September went. I'm still trying to figure out if we had summer. So definitely a lot going on as we're almost to the halfway point. Believe it or not, the halfway point of this fall college semester. Crazy. Crazy. But yes, overall was one heck of a week last week. Again, kudos to the 91.5 crew that was back here at the studio doing a great job. Was definitely a show to remember. Was definitely a incredible growing period for the station. Of course, we did a lot of growing last year, a lot of big-time broadcasts. Of course, the presidential debate in Philadelphia was covered last year. The only debate between President Trump and former Vice President Kamala Harris. Of course, that was covered here at 91.5 back in last September. Not this past September, last year, September. But as well, having our WDBK championship stream in the month of February of this past year, covering, of course, Super Bowl 59 with the Eagles and Chiefs. For the Birds, of course, came out on top. You already know. 40-6 is the real score, by the way. I still argue that. And, of course, with the NFL draft coverage that we had last year, of course, led by another big-time voice behind the mic in the sports department, Jarrett George, who was behind the mic for that broadcast, another big one. So we had some growing periods last year for the station that were, just incredible. Big-time growth spurts for the station. But this year, we look to do more. And this debate that just passed, that 91.5 had the pleasure of covering, was just the start of what the rest of this year has coming. We have a lot more big-time broadcasts ready to go. We have new equipment. It's just going to be a crazy year, and crazy in a good way. Our crew is expanding at a very, very high rate. A lot of new talent came in, of course, just this past fall. Those of you, of course, who watched the debate, seeing the graphics that have now been introduced to 91.5, if you watched that debate stream that we had last week, again, things are improving all around for this station. The talent that is coming in, the people that, just make this all happen here. We have a big crew that gets the job done. Not just do they get the job done, but they get the job done extremely well. So just another reason to constantly tune in live on 91.5. We're going to go to a quick break here for Midday Madness. And then, of course, WDBK Sports Talk with Vincent Foch will be coming up in a matter of moments on the other side of this short break. We'll be back in a matter of moments here on 91.5 WDBK.
The Accessibility Center provides support services to students with disabilities attending Camden County College. At the Accessibility Center, we strive to create an environment that recognizes differences and builds independence. If you are a student with a disability attending Camden County College, you can connect with the Accessibility Center by calling 856-227-7200. Extension 4430, or by emailing accessibilityservice@camdencc.edu, or stop by and visit us on the first floor of Taft Hall.
Did you know that Camden County College has a food pantry? Camden County College has food pantries open to assist students in need of food and various supplies. For donations or assistance about the pantries, please contact Associate Dean Tenuto at jtenuto@camdencc.edu for food distribution. The marketplace is stocked with monetary and food donations by our college community. You can donate to the marketplace's Amazon wish list, through the foundation, or by stopping by as well. Please consider donating.
Camden County County College Tutoring Services. We are here to help you succeed. Do you want a little extra support to boost your confidence and grades? Camden County College is here for you. Our tutoring services offer personalized guidelines to help you master your coursework, achieve your goals, and stay on track to graduate. Find us on the second floor of Wolverton Library at our Blackwood campus and in the Student Learning Center on our Camden campus. We also offer remote and limited online tutoring options for flexible support wherever you are. Our dedicated tutors are here to empower you every step of the way. Don't hesitate. Reach out and let's achieve your best together.
Are you ready to transfer or beginning your transfer research? Then join Transfer Services for a transfer fair at the Camden City campus on Wednesday, October 22nd, 2025 from 10:30 a.m.
The NFL after 11 seasons. He led the Eagles and edges in general with sacks at 1.5 sacks. So that is the news that came out. Already unfortunate enough with the amount of injuries that the Birds have been going through. I mean, you want to talk about it, just what happened to Nolan Smith. So just another one of those situations. And it's absolutely crazy at this time. I tell you what, absolutely crazy. And speaking of breaking news, Rob Thompson, of course, we all know Rob Thompson, right? We all know Rob has now returned and is returning as Phillies manager. So in this type of situation, right? A lot of breaking news, right? Eagles had another one of their edges retired, of course, already with another edge being Nolan Smith, who's hurt. So that doesn't help. So the Eagles defense already suffering through many different injuries. But now you have Rob Thompson returning. To some people, that is a tragedy. Now, man, it's just so much breaking news. What do I give my opinion on first? Well, at this time, I'll start with the Eagles. I'll be nice, right? But overall, when I see this, of course, Darius Smith, 11 seasons. A lot of people are saying, oh, look at that, 2 losses, and he's done. Looked at Jackson Dart one time and decided to retire. Yeah, that doesn't necessarily help whatsoever. Of course, like I said, injuries all over the Eagles lineup, especially in that secondary area. Of course, with the whole situation with Quinyon Mitchell as well, we don't know how bad that injury is. Hopefully nothing too crazy. Now, I haven't seen any reports come in on Quinyon Mitchell yet. Of course, that's what a lot of people are currently looking at this time, being our cornerback hell that we are in with Adoree Jackson and Keely Ringo. So Eagles in a kind of a weird area right now. I don't necessarily want to say so much of a Super Bowl hangover, but you have constant guys injured. You have another one who just got up and left now with Zadarius Smith, just said, I'm done. I'm retired. That's it. So it just seems to be continuing down this path of we don't know. Unfortunate situation. But to move on now, of course, to news that is probably even bigger, like I was mentioning with Rob Thompson returning as Phillies manager, which, again, just came in. I mean, when you look at this overall, and of course, a lot of people had different opinions. I had a certain opinion where I, in a way, did not like his just the way he managed games in general. Now, of course, Thompson had a .580 winning percentage with the Phillies. And with that being said, is the best in franchise history for a skipper who has led for more than 40 games. Now, of course, we also know he led the Phils to 2 straight NL East titles and a playoff berth in each of his 4 seasons at the helm of this team, right? We've known that. And this is something where he's been able to get them to the postseason, especially when he took over a team that at the time didn't see the postseason for a little more than a decade almost. So when I look at this overall, this is something where for the people that are not happy to see this, I'll tend to them first. Is he a guy that these players like to be around? Does he seem like a guy who is a great leader in the locker room? Of course, we can't answer most of that, how he handles things in the clubhouse. We can tell off the faces of some players, and of course, a lot of people could jump immediately to Nick Castellanos saying that there was a lot going on in between those players. That's a little bit of a different deal. If Nick Castellanos is brought back by this Phillies front office, we got other things to worry about, okay? But in general, how he handles the clubhouse, how the players respond to him, how they back him. We even saw after, yes, the unfortunate fumble by Kerkering when that pitch was hit back towards him. All he had to do was throw it to first base to get the final out in those extra innings. Of course, we know what happened. He fumbled it. The Phillies lost in the NLDS, which just happened last week. But even when you saw Kerkering coming off the field, of course, he was just a mess. And the first thing that happened was Rob Thompson went up to him, gave him a pat on the shoulders, and was basically looking him right in the eye and giving him comfort at that time. So this is something where how did the players respond to him? Now, I get some of his management style, some of his decisions were not liked by people. Of course, we can go to the NLDS with having Bryson Stott bunt in a situation where he probably shouldn't have been bunting in. Of course, that was back in Game 1. So there are different decisions, of course, who he puts in at certain times, like the putting in Robertson out of the bullpen. Again, going back to Game 1, that decision for him being your first reliever that you decide to put in. And, of course, the Dodgers kind of did a little dipsy-doodle on him. So this is a team where I know a lot of people, just in general, throughout the regular season, would get mad when he took specific guys out of the game. I mean, how many times did we witness this year Zach Wheeler pitching an incredible game or Ranger Suarez pitching an incredible game, something like that, right? And he takes out the starting pitcher who's pitching incredibly well, not really showing too many signs of going down anytime soon, takes out the starting pitcher and brings in someone from the bullpen. How many times have we seen Thompson take out a starting pitcher who's cooking, put in a member of the bullpen, and the Phillies blow the game? How many times have we seen that this year? So this is something where, and we know how the Phillies are. They're a big-time analytic-driven franchise. We know how they are. They follow analytics. And this is something where a lot of people, and this is an argument I have with him as well, where Thompson doesn't seem to be one of those managers that a lot of times goes off of feel and just the overall field momentum, the feel of his players. He goes off the numbers. And don't get me wrong, sometimes going off of the analytics is not necessarily so much of a bad thing. But there's many times where as a manager, you feel out your team, and especially as long as Thompson has been around these guys, right? He's been coaching. I mean, a lot of these guys have been here since he became manager the first time for that back in that 2022 season when he replaced Joe Girardi. Still can't believe he was a manager of the Phils, and that feels like that never happened. But yeah, believe it or not, it did. But this is something where overall, how does the team react to him? And I think this may have played a key factor on why the Phillies announced, or why it was announced that Rob Thompson will be returning as manager in the future. So a lot coming in. A lot coming in last second here. A lot of fun coming in. But as more information develops, of course, we'll make sure to get that out to you. Of course, there'll be obviously a press conference. There'll be, they'll go through it all. They'll go through it all on the decision that was made that Rob will be brought back for the next upcoming season. And something where a lot of people, of course, seeing how Thompson manages in key situations may have not been exactly the most happiest by this decision. But at this point in time, there's a area where you either have to say it's management or it's the players. And we've seen many times this season, and we saw it in the playoffs, where a specific portion of the Phillies goes absolutely cold. And yeah, when I say specific, okay, I'll go to it. The hitting. And to really pinpoint it, you're starting four. You're starting four that hit 1-4-11 in the first game of the NLDS against the Dodgers. So management comes into a specific point. People can get mad at Rob Thompson all they want. And don't get me wrong, I had some disagreements with him this season. Don't get me wrong. But there's a point where the players have to end up doing their part. And, of course, a lot of people going after Chris Long, right, their hitting coach, saying that this guy is not it. A lot of people want him gone as well. Can I blame them necessarily? I mean, how many times do you see a team, especially with this talent, all go into slumps at the exact same time? How many times do you see it? Where you have guys like Schwarber, Harper, Trey Turner, batting champion, by the way, Trey Turner. I feel like that wasn't thrown out there enough during this past postseason. It wasn't mentioned enough. Yeah, he was a batting champion, folks, this season for the NL East. Your batting champion went cold. Your heavy hitter leading in home runs, Schwarber, went cold. Harper, Mr. So-called playoff, went cold. All these guys that are the big names of the Phillies with huge contracts went cold. The guys that I don't necessarily want to say least suspect, but the guys that are not your top four, like Bader, who came in. Unfortunately, of course, he had his injury, which limited him, of course, in terms of running, hamstring, right? But you had guys like Kepler that was able to find hits in certain situations. Right, you had guys that were not expected to really be the only ones, I should say, to show up. You had those guys that were actually putting on a show. This is something where management is only up to a certain point when the players actually have to start performing. And something where, I mean, you look at this lineup in general. They exploded for one game. Game 3 in Dodger Stadium. That was it. That was it. So when you look at bringing a manager back, and this goes with any coach, you could talk about You could talk about a hockey coach, a football coach, whatever. Yes, you have to have your guys, you have to rally your guys around. But this is something where, of course, when you look at Rob Thompson's history and what he's been able to do, is there still hope there for him? Yeah, I think so. I think there's still hope. I think there's still a chance. But the way that the Phillies are kind of going in right now are kind of turning into the Dallas Cowboys of the league. Of course, a lot of people say, no, the New York Yankees hold that. Well, the way the Phillies are going right now, 4 straight years, I don't know what else to really say besides that. 4 straight years. Now they have lost back-to-back years in the NLDS. Before it was kind of like going down. It was the championship series, right? That they lost in after the World Series. Then it turned into the divisional series last year where it was the same situation. They had the bye round. They were on the bye for the wild card, got ran over by the Mets. And what happened? The Phillies only won 1 game in that series. What happened this year? Same exact thing, except the difference was in last year they won a game at home. This year, got swept at home, came up with a big win at Dodger Stadium, giving Phillies fans hope. And then, unfortunately, you fought them hard to the end. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to ditch on the pitchers at all. The pitching staff was what kept you in it since the hitting seemed to turn down to a middle school level. But man, oh man, crazy, crazy. So my overall thoughts, having Rob Thompson back, I'm interested to see. I'm interested to see what these coming seasons have to hold. And of course, seeing right now, we just know he's coming back. I don't necessarily see anything that says how long he will be back for, if a specific contract has been worked out yet. But right now, with the reports that we are getting, of course, it is still early, are saying that he will be returning and is safe to return for 2026. So again, when more information comes out, I'll be watching it as this show continues on. We'll watch that situation. The specific information. The only information that we know currently is the report says that Rob Thompson is safe and will return for 2026 for Phillies manager. So that's all the news that we have now. But we'll be right back in a matter of moments. Again, remember, WDBK has a text line, 856-345-9325. If you want to text into the show and be a part of the conversation, you're very much welcome to do so. Of course, when texting in, leave your name and, of course, the place that you're texting in from. So, of course, the name of the town you're texting in from. We love to hear from our listeners what they think on the topics that are being discussed at hand. And, yeah, let's hear your opinion. What do you think about Rob Thompson being safe as Phillies manager and returning in 2026? Text into the show. Again, WDBK, 856-345-9325. Text into the show. What is your opinion with Rob Thompson being safe and returning as Phillies manager for the 2026 season? We'd love to hear your thoughts. We're going to go to a quick break. Vincent Foch behind the mic here for your 1 o'clock hour. We'll be back in a matter of moments here live on 91.5.
The award-winning Pine Barrens Chorus is looking for men of all ages who love to sing in the 4-part harmony a cappella style. The Pine Barrens Chorus is located in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and is a membership organization of 4-part harmony singers from ages 18 to 90 plus, representing all walks of life in southern New Jersey. If you are interested in joining, email contact@pinebarrens.org and let them know you're interested. 91.5 WDBK-FM has its text line back. You can text in to our student shows at 856-345-WDBK or being 856-345-9325. Join our conversation, and if you have a request, let us know. That's once again 856-345-9325.
Did
Did you know that Camden County College has a dental hygiene clinic? Located at Halpern Hall Suite 107 on the Blackwood campus, the clinic is here to put a sparkle in your smile. With hours being 9 a.m. to noon, 1 to 4 p.m. on Mondays and Wednesdays, and 12:30 to 3:30 p.m. on Thursdays with no morning hours. Remember, these services are offered by appointments only. You can contact the clinic by phone at 856-374-4930. Once again, 856-374-4930 for a smile of a lifetime. Here at Camden County College, mental health is one of our top priorities. Students face many challenges in pursuit of their academic and professional goals. If this sounds like something that you have felt or gone through before and are looking for that helping hand with support in dealing with stress, feeling overwhelmed, a personal matter, or a circumstance that may impact your academic success, well, make sure to reach out to the Center for Counseling and Wellness today. You can contact Andrea Falzone or Shirley Michelle Williams by email counseling@camdencc.edu or by phone at 856-227-7200 with either extension 4559 or extension 4556. And remember, you are not alone. And welcome back to 91.5 WDBK for Midday Madness. This is Vincent Foch behind the mic here for your 1 o'clock hour. Had some interesting segments, of course, right, that we just talked about. Of course, the big-time breaking news is that, according to Joel Sherman, who is a respected big-time, this is not just some guy that's throwing information out there. He is a guy who is well-recognized as a baseball insider for a big-time contributor to the New York Post. This is, per him, that Rob Thompson will be returning to the Phillies for the 2026 season. So again, if you're listening, utilize our WDBK text line. Text into the show, 856-345-9325. I want to hear your thoughts. Are you happy with that decision? Do you want to see Rob Thompson return? Or do you want that era to be over? Are you not happy to see Thompson returning back to South Philadelphia in the clubhouse of Citizens Bank Park? Let us know. WDBK text line, once again, 856-345-9325. Let me hear your opinion. Leave your name. Leave where you're texting in from. This is definitely big-time news. Something that I was not expecting. And, of course, then we were as well talking about Zadarius Smith announcing retirement, not even midway through the season yet. At the beginning of the season, the Eagles edger, who leads in the edge department for 1.5 sacks. That he leads in the edge department. So already having Nolan Smith injured at the edge position, now losing Zadarius Smith as he just randomly decides to retire after 11 seasons. Kind of like in a situation, people asking me, could he actually do that? Is he allowed to do that? Well, yeah, he can. It's like quitting a job. Anyone can decide to retire, and he just did so. A lot of people took one look at Jackson Dart and decided to retire. Yeah, still not a little happy on that. But yeah, a lot of breaking news coming in. But now I want to get to a subject that involves a very, very icy situation. And that is, of course, with the Philadelphia Flyers, right? I got to give some hockey talk. I've been giving a lot of football and baseball talk these past couple of weeks. Of course, we got two other teams getting ready to go. We got the Flyers, we got the Sixers. To some people, that may be a national tragedy that they're starting. But hey, it's happening either way, so you better get ready for it. The Flyers and Sixers are coming back, and of course, the Flyers have already started their regular season. But the big news tonight is, of course, the Flyers home opener at not the Wells Fargo Center is what I was about to say. No, Xfinity Mobile Arena, of course, in South Philadelphia. The X, as some people like to call it. It's still growing on me. I'll get there eventually. But the X, the Flyers will be hosting defending Stanley Cup champions, the defending back-to-back Stanley Cup champions, the Florida Panthers, who have been on an absolute roll this year. Not a surprise, of course, them with, you already know, Brad Marchand. They are 3-0 right now. The Panthers look to continue their winning ways into South Philadelphia tonight. As, yes, the Flyers have already gone up against the Panthers this year. They've only played 2 games leading up to this home opener. but they've already played the Panthers, and it was a close game, something where we look at the Flyers when they played the Panthers the first time, and of course, a lot was going on. Some would say the goalie was the reason that they won that game. Of course, Daniel Vladar played incredible. Was all over the place. 34 saves, by the way. Want to put that out there. That should give you a picture on how that game went. 34 saves. Now, of course, that comes up the talk about how the Flyers' defense is. Of course, we know that the Flyers are still looking for pieces for this defense, right? We already know that with the Flyers having guys like, of course, Igor Zamula back there, who's, by the way, I find this so funny, but apparently Igor Zamula's agent came out and was complaining that the Flyers had not been giving him enough opportunities. Got to figure out if this agent works for a comedy club, because that is hilarious. Haven't given him enough opportunities. How about all of last year? I would think that's a great opportunity. Leaving the back door open in the slot, not keeping guys to the outside, letting guys stand in front of your own goalie without being tampered with or without any type of shoving or stick lifting. Yeah, he's not getting the chances. He's just helping the other team at this point. Never heard anything so ridiculous. Not getting enough chances. Give me a break. But yes, of course, when you look at this entire situation for the Flyers, the defense is still a concern. Of course, you have guys like Jamie Drysdale back there who has been holding it up. Of course, the main thing for him is can he stay healthy? Adam Jennings, who is a young one, but is still getting multiple different chances. Then you have, of course, your veterans back there, Nick Seeler, and hopefully soon Cam York will be able to come back. And, of course, and that's another aspect, is that you still have injuries back there. You have Cam York injured, and you have Rasmus Ristolainen injured, who just came off of, yes, another surgery. Rasmus, a big defenseman, good with contact, good with physicality, but also loves the injury room. And this is something where, yes, I'm one of those people. I've defended Rasmus Ristolainen for many, many years, because the main problem that I see, especially with defensemen, is people always look at how they are offensively. Risto is not a guy who goes goal line to goal line at a very high speed. Does he do it sometimes? Believe it or not, yes. But he's not one of those guys that you're going to see deking around 50 different people, making the crazy move. No, he's a stay-at-home defenseman. A guy who is strong in the slot, a guy who's strong in those board battles, a guy who is good with stick on puck in one-on-one situations, a guy who's not afraid to use his body, a guy who's not afraid to put the pressure on in the slot, shoving people out the way. If someone's standing in front of your goalie, something I've been taught at a very young age when I played, and if there's anyone from an opposing team standing in front of your goalie in that slot, the back door, as they like to call it, watch the back door. Anyone who's standing by themselves on the opposing team in front of their goalie shouldn't be standing that way for long. They should be pestered to the point where they are, let's just say, begging to leave that slot. They should be shoved to the point where they can't even remember their name. No one should ever be standing alone in front of your net. And this is something where the Flyers defense need. Now, Grant, I understand the contract to Ristolainen by Chuck Fletcher, of course, a guy who, if he walks in, I'm sure it's a South Philly right now, may not leave South Philly. So I don't think you have to worry about seeing Chuck Fletcher's face back here, the guy who destroyed this team. He's with the Devils now. He can destroy them all he wants. Not their GM. He's part of their franchise. He can destroy them all he wants now. But it was a ridiculous contract, and I'll give you that. Do I like the contract that he was given? No. But I still think he is a defenseman, and that type of defensive mentality that the Flyers need. Too many times do the Flyers just collapsing around their net. We saw it last game as well against Carolina. Even though that game against the Hurricanes, last game was a better outing, a better showing, it still showed the Flyers' ability to collapse. And this is something where, we've seen it multiple different times through last season, where opposing teams know exactly what they are doing. When they set up in the Flyers' defensive zone, they kind of, I like to call it, they kind of squeeze and squeeze and squeeze. They pass the puck around the outside, the rim of the zone, and then shortly, they start to cram it. They start to get the Flyers kind of all bunched up, and they take advantage of it. They get them all bunched up in front of their goalie. They screen their own goaltender. The goalie can't see anything, and next thing you know, the puck finds its way in the net because the goalie can't see anything. He's got a bunch of traffic in front of him. No reason there should be that much traffic in front of him, but in a lot of situations there is because they all bunch up around the goalie. They bunch up the slot. They clog up the slot. Therefore, there is no sight lines, and it's perfect for those low slappers to squeak in. All you need is a little tip, misdirection. If there's 1,000 people standing in front of the goalie can't see. There's also a lot of opportunities where even if the goalie was able to have a clear line of sight, that puck could hit off about 30 different people before it goes in the net, could change direction about 50 times. And most guys in this league, especially defensemen, shoot around 95 miles per hour or 90 miles per hour, in that range, 90 to 100 miles per hour. Especially the technology of the sticks, shots are a lot faster and a lot harder than they were before. This carbon fiber kind of flings it. If you ever look at a shot in slow motion, you'll see that stick bend. A lot different from the wooden sticks. A lot different from the wooden sticks. Trust me, I've broken quite a few of the carbon fibers. They may be flimsy, but man, it's definitely fun to shoot a puck, I'll say that. But this is that situation. Not to get off topic, but the Flyers are one definitely to collapse in front of the net, and something that just continues to happen. And of course, with Rick Tocchet right now, that's the whole situation of kind of trying to redevelop this defense once again. Now, Emil Andre, a kid that was given some chances last year, is getting another shot with the Flyers. Of course, Andre will try to help with the Flyers to get their first dub of the season coming up here with the home opener, of course. With Cam York, like I was mentioning, he is injured. Now, he is day-to-day with the lower body injury and appears to be possibly missing more time than expected. So this is another one of those situations where you got these young guys coming in. This is a time to test your young core. I mean, we've seen multiple different opportunities throughout this season. Of course, this is a rebuilding team. They are a young team. You want to talk about another kid that's young and getting a chance? Let's move away from defense into the winger section with Luchenko. Another kid who was brought up last year, did absolutely incredible. Was great with moving the puck up to the neutral zone. Was something very, very special to see. Now, of course, he was sent down last year. Of course, the Flyers were using that as, okay, he had his time up here. He was sent back to the Lehigh Valley Phantoms and did some work there. But Luchenko, definitely another young piece who showed the talent. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, the way he was playing last year, he could have stayed with the Flyers for the end of the season, but they wanted to treat it well and say, okay, you had your time up. Let's put you back down in the Phantoms for a little more time. Now this year, he's getting another shot, and I have a feeling he'll be up here a little longer than he was last year. Just saying. Hopefully. But we'll see what happens. Of course, now going over last game, of course, there was a lot that happened, a lot of controversy that happened last game, of course. Now, last game, I'd say my player of the game, even though they lost, my player of the game for the Flyers definitely had to be Bobby Brink, a player that they've been developing now for the past few years. Got a good shot last year. Performed pretty well. But I tell you what I've seen out of him so far this year, again, they've only played 2 games. That's it. His ability to carry the puck up. And his speed that he showed. Now, this has been the biggest problem with the Flyers offense, has been their ability to break out of the defensive zone, maneuver the puck through the neutral zone and into the offensive zone. Their zone entries have been the biggest issue. And many times, of course, in previous seasons, specifically last year, you can go for the past 4 years, for God's sakes. This has been something where they don't necessarily have a formed breakout and a formed zone entry. Many times last year, the Flyers' zone entry was as simple as this: dump and chase. The problem with dump and chase, yes, it can work at certain times, but the problem with dump and chase is you wear your guys out a lot faster. And why? Well, because you dump the puck in, you skate, your rear end off, try to get there. Next thing you know, you're in a full board battle in the corner. And the Flyers would do this constantly, 5-on-5, and when they were on the power play. And many of those times, They would dump the puck in, go fight for it in the boards. They would lose the battle, and the puck would be just wung out of the zone. And, of course, you know how a power play is. If the puck's wung out of the zone, it goes down into your zone. That's not icing. You're on the power. They're on the penalty kill. You're on the power play. It's not going to be an icing. So these zone entries were the biggest issue for the Flyers last year. They were very sloppy. They didn't have any set plays, 1-3-1s, anything through the neutral zone. It was kind of you go through the neutral zone. If you're lucky, you see a couple passes, but there wasn't really a lot of movement. You didn't have guys cutting across the center of the ice with their sticks on the ground showing the tape. There just wasn't a lot of that. There wasn't a lot of movement, and it was so easy for the opposing team to really see the strategy of the Flyers every single time. It was the same thing. You didn't have a lot of guys moving. It was always skate up, drop the puck back, another guy would curl around. Next thing you know, you have two guys skating up. You had good motion. All of a sudden, they would stop because you don't want to be offside. So next thing you know, you had two guys standing on either side of the blue line, a third guy standing. So your center and two wingers were pretty much standing still. Meanwhile, your other defenseman was skating, and the guy who had the puck was skating. So you had two out of the five guys on the ice for your team. Three of them were standing still. Not a great way for a zone entry. Not good flow. This was something where every time the Flyers would try to enter the zone, they'd either get one, stopped at the blue line, or two, would get it around halfway in the zone, cough the puck up, and then it would be cleared right out. Now, a couple times, and I've seen it so far this season, of course, it's a young season, and they only played 2 games. The third game's coming up tonight with the home opener, right? But there was some more movement, and something where I got to see from the Flyers a lot more. I mean, you had guys like Brink carry it in. We saw a little bit of this last year, but it wasn't developing. It just wasn't. Where you'd have your guy with the speed skate up. Now, I don't want to hear that excuse anymore. Before, people are like, they need a guy with good speed. Well, you have guys with speed now. Owen Tippett is one of them. Bobby Brink showed it yesterday. He was a guy that in the past 2 days ago, he was a guy in the past where you didn't necessarily expect to be the fastest, but they showed it last game. Even Konechny. And don't get me started on how Konechny completes passes. Sometimes I don't know who he's looking at for passes. Sometimes he's looking at the opposing team when he passes the puck. But it's okay, right? We're developing. But to have your faster guy carry it in, drops it back to your D. You go D to D. Get set up at least in the offensive zone. For your power plays especially, you have your fast guy come in. They challenge them. That winger comes up, challenges them. You drop the puck back for your defensemen that are crashing in and continuing. Next thing you know, you try to hone them on, get them to box up around the slot, and then you attack like that. So this is something where, I mean, we saw it a couple of times last year. Saw it a little more in this past game against Carolina. But this was something where they have to do it more. And don't get me wrong, they're a young team. I'm sure we'll see it more. But it's something where this dump and chase method just can't be it. We saw it yesterday, or again, 2 days ago, where they'd either dump it in, or next thing you know, the guy would win the board battle, but then he'd just fling it around the boards again. There'd be no one there, or there would be a Flyer there, but he'd have 2 Hurricanes on him, and next thing you know, he is in a battle of his life. So the strategy needs to get a little better, and I'm sure it's something that will develop. Again, you got a new head coach in Rick Tocchet who's looking to bring that feisty mentality back, and as well with this entire coaching staff that they have looking to get the smoothness back. Again, we saw how the news that came out of training camp with how how these new guys were doing in terms of rising up, right? So this is going to be something on how they develop. But of course, last game there was that. There was all the developmental, I should say, portions of it. But, of course, there was the controversial issue that happened at the end of the game that I definitely need to get to. People have different opinions about it, and that was the extremely controversial goaltender interference call where the Flyers won the game in overtime. Nope. No, they didn't. It was called back. Goaltender interference, next thing you know, was about a minute. Carolina Hurricanes went down the other end, scored, won the game. So there was actually a post I saw. It was hilarious. ESPN put out, Flyers win 4-3 in overtime. That post was taken down. Minute later, Hurricanes win 4-3 in overtime. So if you weren't watching the game and you were going by ESPN, you probably would have either thought that you drank too many or was close to being completely high, seeing those 2 notifications come in around a minute apart. But, yes, that's the way it happened. Now, of course, getting into the goaltender interference call, this is something that I know Flyers fans were furious about But in this situation, and we look at it, of course, if you didn't watch the game, you probably heard about it because it was something that, let's just say, a lot of people were hooting and hollering about. I may have been one of them. But this was something, of course, where Travis Sanheim, Flyers defenseman, was crashing the net at a very, very high speed, was carrying it into the offensive zone, where he rushed, of course, Carolina Hurricanes goaltender Frederik Andersen, made contact with Andersen in the crease, and, of course, the puck was still available. Bobby Brink picked up and buried it. Flyers won the game, we thought. No. Now, of course, this entire issue, and this is something where I wish I could really, it's something where it's better if you actually show it. But I'm sure you've all seen the picture by this point. Now, of course, a lot of people saying, Andersen was the one who initiated contact first. Now, here's the situation and the way that I look at it. The NHL, I'll kind of put it in context like this. If you're familiar with the NFL roughing the passer, how the NFL is with roughing the passer, that's kind of how the NHL is with this goaltender interference call. This is something where Andersen never left the crease. Sanheim made contact with him in the crease. His right skate entered the crease, and his stick kind of got caught in Andersen. Now, don't get me wrong. The part I did not like about the call was that Andersen stuck his elbow out and kind of initiated contact with Sanheim first. That was the part I didn't like about it. And as well with that little bit of an acting job, acting like Sanheim kind of drug him across the crease, dragging him out of the crease for them to get the easy goal. Andersen initiated the contact it looked like first. That's the issue I had, that he stuck his elbow out. And as well, not just that he stick his elbow out, but he kind of shoved Sanheim as well. So in that situation, that's the part of it I don't like. Now, of course, yeah, the NHL, what they were probably looking at in that review center in Toronto was Andersen never left the crease. Now, if he came out of the crease and challenged Sanheim and shoved them there, and Sanheim made contact with him outside of the crease, would have been a different story. But since he never left the crease, Sanheim, yes, unfortunately, he tried to avoid him every chance he possibly could, as much as he possibly could, tried to avoid him, but he did make contact with him. That is something where the NHL is going to side with the goaltender in that situation every single time. And we've been seeing how this call has been developed in previous years, especially last year in the Stanley Cup playoffs. There were some controversial calls with this. So this is one of those situations, how the NFL is roughing the passer, how they treat the protection of the QB. It's how the NHL is with goaltender interference. Did I like the part where he stuck his elbow out? No. But at the end of the day, Sanheim entered the crease. There was contact initiated in the crease. The goalie never left the crease. The NHL is going to side with the goaltender every single time. It's unfortunate to see. Everyone got so excited, me being one of them, but it was called back. Flyers on the wrong side of that call, but who knows? We'll see what the Flyers can do tonight. At least they get a point out of that game. It was an overtime loss. They pick up a point. So we'll see what the Orange and Black are able to do tonight at the X in South Philadelphia. Of course, hosting the Florida Panthers, back-to-back Stanley Cup champs. We'll see what they are able to do come tonight. And hopefully the Flyers can get on the winning side of things once again. Tonight at 7 o'clock p.m. from South Philadelphia, we'll see Panthers have a 46.2% win probability. Flyers at 32.8%. We'll see what happens. The great Philly crowd will be back in it once again, seeing the sea of orange in South Philly will never be something that can be topped, right? Never can be something that will be topped. That's all for me here. Vincent Fost on Midday Madness, 91.5 WDBK. Hope you have a great rest of your Monday. Yes, it's a little bit of a soggy one, but hey, main thing.